When I repented, I know the angels rejoiced. I was living in wickedness and was sinning by choice. A lot of things in my past I don't like to speak on.
Shalom. This is Brother Dawad. First, I want to start off by giving all praises, honor, and glory to the Most High, whose name is YAHAWAH, in the name of His only begotten Son, YAHAWASHI. I'm here with the brother Avron.
Khan, shalom.
And we just want to go into the law today. Can you get me Acts 15:21?
Khan. This is the book of Acts, chapter 15 and verse 21. For Moses of old time hath in every city them that preach him, being read in the synagogues every Sabbath day.
Khan, and we know most of our brothers and sisters, they spend their Sabbaths at home. There's not a lot of places where, everybody can go where they agree with every particular principle taught in every assembly or congregation. So we just, teach from this law as much as we can, as much as the Spirit allows and leads us to. So we're going to start, straight from what's called what people call the 10 Commandments. We'll start there. So you can start that in Exodus 20.
Khan. Starting at the top.
Khan.
This is the book of Exodus, chapter 20 and verse 1. And God spake all these words, saying, I am YAHAWAH thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me.
Khan. So it's important to recognize that the Most High makes this distinction to let the people know that Him Himself is the one who gives them strength and power, because the word God translates to power in the Hebraic sense. So when dealing with this, there's a few scriptures that we have to deal with. You get Deuteronomy 6 and 4, because through most scriptures we see, people. There's the branch of belief that there's other things attached to what we call God, right? But He makes a clear distinction throughout all of the scriptures. While He has conduits and people that He works through, He's the one who does the work, right? So you can read that.
Khan, this is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 6 and verse 4. Hear, O Israel, YAHAWAH, our God, is one, YAHAWAH.
You can continue on.
Verse 5. And thou shalt love YAHAWAH thy God with all thine heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy might.
Right. So this is that importance, right? And that's why the Messiah repeats the same thing. He lets us know that the first commandment, is that the Most High is one by Himself. Even when the men accuse Him of saying that He is the Most High, he asks them, like, why are you blaspheming? Why are you saying this? Like, that's not even what I'm saying. I wouldn't even consider to say anything like that. So go to Deuteronomy 4 and 37.
Khan. This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 4 and verse 37. And because He loved thy fathers, therefore He chose their seed after them, and brought thee out of His sight with His mighty power out of Egypt.
Right. So this power on His own, with the work of His hand, did this work to bring the people out of Egypt. But it's not as if, you know, because we have that free will doctrine that everybody kind of has. But all of this work is the work of the Most High. That's why the scriptures say the Most High is a man of war. And so, like, all of these things are done through his work, whether it be bringing the people out of Egypt or anything of the sort. We could look to scriptures like, you know, Exodus 7:1, where he makes Moses as God to Pharaoh, and he makes Aaron as Moses's prophet. And this is something that can be done when you're walking in like manner to the Most High, because Moses in his time, especially in this time, was doing the will of the Most High, and so he was able to walk as God and be one with the Most High at this point. So we could actually get that Exodus 7:1.
God, this is the book of Exodus, chapter 7 and verse 1. And Yahawah said unto Moses, See, I have made thee a god to Pharaoh, and Aaron thy brother shall be thy prophet.
You can continue on.
God, continuing on, verse 2. Thou shalt speak all that I command thee, and Aaron thy brother shall speak unto Pharaoh, that he send the children of Israel out of his land.
Right. And so this is still getting into that point that to be a God to the people, you have to speak the same as the Most High. This is why the Messiah sat in that authoritative seat, because he didn't do his own will. He did the will of the Father. The words that he speak weren't of himself. He spoke the words that the Most High gave him to speak. And so that's why he is deemed the Word made flesh through the scriptures. So we can go on back to Exodus 20.
This is the book of Exodus, chapter 20. You want me to continue on from 3?
Con.
Verse 3. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image, or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. For I, Yahawah, thy power, am a jealous God.
All right, we could pause right there. Get is that Leviticus 19 or Leviticus 18 verse 1? Because what's very important is that the Israelites were coming out of Egypt at this time. So they're getting customs and different things and getting used to certain things. And then they're about to go into the land of Canaan, where there's other things going on, and they're going to see these things and be like, yo, we want to do that. Like, we're trying to get into everything they're getting into. But the Most High is making a distinction at this point. Because I've showed loyalty to you, just repay me for what I'm giving to you, because the Most High is just. So you can read that, brother.
God, this is the book of Leviticus, chapter 18 and verse 1. And Yahawah spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, I am Yahawah your God. After the doings of the land of Egypt, wherein ye dwelt, shall ye not do. And after the doings of the land of Canaan, whither I bring you, shall ye not do. Neither shall ye walk in their ordinances.
You can read 4.
Verse 4. Ye shall do my judgments, and keep mine ordinances, to walk therein. I am Yahawah your God.
Right. So it becomes abundantly clear that he's making this distinction, because the things that they've seen and the things that they're about to see, these are the things that they're going to desire. So he's making this distinction to let them know that I chose you, and I'm giving you something for you to do that's going to make you better than what you've seen and what you're going to see. Because where you were a slave, and you enjoyed being a slave for some strange reason. But I'm trying to make you kings and priests. And so, you know, as we've seen through the history of the scriptures, Uh, Israel wasn't feeling that. They rather be slaves. They rather do wickedly and rather be like everybody else. Get Leviticus 26:1.
Con. And also I had a quick precept also. Kind of just to touch on this a little bit. This is because the Most High, and it's also another precept in Wisdom of Solomon. I can't think of it off top, but it actually speaks to some of the abominable things that were done, by these people that the Most High told us not to imitate, right?
God.
So this is Leviticus 18:26. It says, "Ye shall therefore keep my statutes and my judgments, and shall not commit any of these abominations, neither any of your own nation, nor any stranger that sojourneth among you. For all these abominations have the men of the land done, which were done before you, and the land is defiled, that the land spew not you out also, when ye defile it, as it spewed out the nations that were before you." So, as Yahawah had made mention at the top of the chapter, he literally tells us not to do the doings of these people, specifically the Canaanites. But then later on in the chapter, he kind of speaks to why, so that you don't get spewed from the land as they're going to be spewed from the land. But what was that precept you called?
Leviticus 26:1. But yeah, that's an excellent point. Because and it becomes abundantly clear who the true people are as well, because with all the wickedness going on in that land, in that region to date, and them, certainly not being, uprooted for their wickedness, so to speak. Even though the scriptures speak of the time of the wickedness of the Gentiles being fulfilled at some point, and basically them reaching their cap, right? They're reaching their limit. Like, hey, you done so much that I'm finished with this. I can't watch it.
Con, you want this in Leviticus 26?
Yeah, kind.
Con, this is the book of Leviticus, chapter 26, starting at verse 1. "Ye shall make you no idols, nor graven image, neither rear you up a standing image, neither shall ye set up any image of stone in your land, to bow down unto it. For I am Yahawah your God. Ye shall keep my Sabbaths, and reverence my sanctuary. I am Yahawah."
Kind. And so, because Jake like to make more doctrine than the scripture make. So Jake say, like, yeah, you can't do art, you can't draw, you can't sculpt. But we see it's abundantly clear here that you can't do these things to set up any image of stone in your land to bow down unto it, right? For the reason of this. And so we see plenty of times where images were used, and then the thing becomes a snare to the people because of their desire to do X, Y, and Z, not for the purpose of the creation of said images. So, and jump down to verse 12.
Con. It's Leviticus chapter 26 and verse 12. "And I will walk among you, and will be your God, and ye shall be my people. I am Yahawah your God, which brought you forth out of the land of Egypt, that ye should not be their bondmen. And I have broken the bands of your yoke, and made you go upright."
Right. So he's saying these things to let them know, like, don't do these things because I've given you a freedom, right? And so, like, he's basically giving them the keys to life. And throughout the scriptures, we see that they reject this life that he's given them. And he's continuing to give them this life, but they're continuing to reject it. And so that's why this next verse in Exodus 20 is very important, right? Because we see people who slip and fall, right? And they still love the ways of the Most High, but maybe they, they get caught up in life and, stumble, fall, commit some sin, and then they actually have a real sincere repentance because they actually love the law of the Most High. So we can go back to Exodus 20.
Let me continue on from 5.
Yep, Khan.
So this is Exodus chapter 20 and verse 5, back from the top. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. For I, Yahawah, thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments.
Khan. And so, as it was stated earlier, it becomes abundantly clear that the Most High, like he has understanding. He's not some dumb idol that somebody reared up and just sits there and watches and doesn't watch. It's just sitting there. It's just stone, and somebody's worshiping it, putting out cookies and wine and setting it out and saying, "Oh, the wine's gone the next morning." And the priest come in and drink the wine and eat the cookies and say, yeah, the God ate them last night. All praises to this random God. And that's not what the Most High does. He has understanding, and he knows, like, in your life you might slip and fall and do something random. So he set up this level of grace, right? Get 2 John 1 and 3.
This is the book of 2 John, chapter 1, and verse 3. Grace be with you, mercy and peace from God the Father, and from the Lord YAHAWASHI the Anointed, the Son of the Father, in truth and love.
You can continue on 6.
Verse 4. I rejoice greatly that I found thy children walking in truth, as we have received a commandment from the Father. And now I beseech thee, lady, not as though I wrote a new commandment unto thee, but that which we had from the beginning, that we love one another. And this is love, that we walk after his commandments. This is the commandment, that as ye have heard from the beginning, ye should walk in it.
God. And so, how can you wish grace and mercy on somebody and peace, right, if they're not walking after the Father, right? Walking after the will of the Father. And so when we walk in these ways, we can obtain that mercy, right? And we get great examples like, David when he sleeps with Bathsheba, but not only the sleeping with Bathsheba, he also set up a man to be killed, right? And so, by our definition, we look in the law like, hey man, you're supposed to die, 1 for adultery, and now 2 for having a man killed, right? Setting him on the front line. You the king, you had full control. And while yet there was still consequences, right? David's prayer in Psalms 51 is a mighty prayer, right? Because he's asking for something that would seem unobtainable, right? And let's just look at a little bit of that. Get Psalms 51 verse 16. Because for certain sins, we know there's no sacrifice for. There's no sacrifice for adultery. There's no sacrifice for murder. And so we see this mercy, as our Christian friends always say, like, oh, it wasn't no grace in the Old Testament. This is clear showing of grace.
And I got a point after that too.
Con.
51 and 16.
Con.
So this is the book of Psalm, chapter 51 and verse 16. But thou desirest not sacrifice, else would I give it. Thou delightest not in burnt offering. The sacrifices of God are a broken spirit, a broken and a contrite heart. O God, thou wilt not despise.
God. And this is that showing of a circumcised heart, right? Because this is tearing off that old man, tearing off that old sin, and becoming something new, right? And so David's really showing his heart right here. He understands what he did, and he knows it's 1,000% wrong. And so now he's trying to get to that point. You know, it's kind of like a son who does something, and his father knows, like, yeah, you did terrible. And you got one son who's like, yeah, I don't care, it's whatever. But then you got another son who's like, man, I really want, you know, my dad to like not hate me right now. So like he tries to do whatever he can within his powers to get, you know, in his dad's good graces, right? Continue down to verse 19. You can read 18 and 19.
This is verse 18. Do good in thy pleasure unto Zion. Build thou the walls of Jerusalem. Then shalt thou be pleased with the sacrifices of righteousness, with burnt offering and whole burnt offering. Then, then shall they offer bullocks upon thine altar.
Right. And so what's important here is after you have shown that broken spirit, then it shows that after you repent, you can get back to the law. This is the showing that after you actually turn away from sin, that you can get back to the law. You can get back to the Most High. That's the way to get back to the Most High, is to hearken to the law, right? And so you said you had a point. You could bring that out.
The brother spoke well through the spirit, and just to kind of add on, you know, because that is that's a common misconception that, you know, the Most High, quote unquote, in the Old Testament didn't, or there was no mercy or no grace there. But, you know, we see the contrary, and David is a perfect example. Like, I'm gonna read this in Romans chapter 4, verse 5. It says, but to him that worketh not, but believeth on him that justifieth the ungodly, his faith is counted for righteousness. And so there's a particular brother I know that he uses this verse and he abuses it awfully, right? But, you know, what this is actually touching on is the fact that, you know, there were people that were justified or declared innocent from guilt without any particular work being done, right? And when you look at the understanding for justification and what that means and how we obtain that, you know, according to our law, it was by, you know, Leviticus 1 through 7, you know, when you would give a particular sacrifice, and then the scripture said that his sin would be forgiven him. You know, when you look at that phraseology, it's typically the Hebrew word salachia, right? Or salachia. I believe it'll just be salach, and then, you know, some other form. It might not be a possessive, but it would be that particular phraseology, and it would mean to pardon or to make someone acquitted, right? So when someone's justified, you know, or declared righteous, you know, or declared in right standing, that means that they're being, you know, their sin is being blotted out or it's being wiped away. So this is a particular example of that, as we read in, you know, we can see it in Psalm, and then you could also see it throughout, you know, David's, you know, that account with David, right? But continuing on, verse 6, it says, even as David also describeth the blessedness of the man unto whom God imputeth righteousness without works. Right? In that righteousness, when you look into that word, that's dealing with justification. So basically, you know, and I think this is quoting I want to say Psalm 32, but David, he speaks about this and he says, blessed is the man that the Most High doesn't impute sin upon, roughly paraphrasing. And I believe Paul, he continues to quote it. But when you look at that phraseology without works, that's not saying, oh, well, I'm going to be declared innocent from guilt, you know, if I don't repent and I don't do anything. You know, that's not what that's going into. But as we read in Psalm 51, you know, it said that, matter of fact, I want to look at it, verse in Psalm 51:17, it said the sacrifices of God are a broken spirit, a broken and a contrite heart. You know, when you go into that word contrite, you know, that's very important, right? Let me look at this word. I believe it's the word dakah. Yes, dakah. and it actually means to be broken, to be crushed. So that's the opposite of someone that's going to be prideful. They're not going to say, "Oh, well, it doesn't matter what I did." Like it's lit, like it's a song. Um, I think it's called "He Saw the Best in Me," and a brother, I co-labor with, he kind of went into certain song lyrics and how they espouse dangerous ideologies. Like we shouldn't have the spirit of, it doesn't matter what I did. We should be, broken and, in the contrite spirit about, the wrong that we did. And we should be, as the scriptures talk about, walking after a godly sorrow. That's in 2 Corinthians, the 7th chapter. Right. But continuing on, this is Romans 4:7. It says, saying, blessed are they whose iniquities are forgiven and whose sins are covered. Right. But I just kind of want to make that point, just to harp on the fact that indeed we do see that the Most High, he did provide what you call it, mercy or grace. Like we do see grace, in the scriptures, even during the time of David. Right. But that's, chiefly because David, he kept the law of the Most High. So when we take it all the way back to Exodus 20, when it said, in showing mercies to thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments, the scriptures say that David, he walked upright. He didn't turn from the left or to the right. I believe that's in Second Chronicles 34. So we understand that, grace is very important, but you have to understand that the Most High, he's not just going to keep showing you mercy and grace, and you walking around with the spirit of, it doesn't matter what I did. It's, like I'm, through grace, through faith, I'm hidden in heavenly places, like, the flesh in me, I'm going to keep like the Most High is not dealing with that. Right. But I'll pass it back to you.
Yeah, the Most High is not dealing with, you feeling like, yeah, I can smash 20 random women today, and the next moment I'm good because because he sent his son to die, and that's good enough. Like you're sending him through that again. You're making him crucified anew, like the scriptures say. But just like the brother was saying, like David was loved by the Most High, and David loved the Most High, right? So much that when the Most High sought out for him, when YAHAWAH set out for him, in Samuel, the 13th chapter, the 14th verse, he said that he was a man after his own heart, and you can get that. And this is chiefly in the time when Saul was reigning and ruling, but ruling in wickedness. Saul chose to do whatever he wanted to do whenever he wanted to do it. But the Most High knew a man who would do things when he instructed him to do it. And when he did wrong, he chose a man that would be broken in spirit. And he knew he would be broken in spirit. He knew these things chiefly from the time he chose them.
What was the verse?
14.
This is the book of 2 Samuel, chapter 13 and verse 14.
Salak, 1 Samuel.
And I got another one kind of speaking to the same idea as well.
Is it Acts 13:22?
Nah, it's
okay.
Chronicles 34.
Okay.
This is the book of 2 Chronicles, 1 Samuel 13 and 14. It says, but now thy kingdom shall not continue. YAHAWAH hath sought him a man after his own heart, and YAHAWAH hath commanded him to be captain over his people, because thou hast not kept that which YAHAWAH commanded thee.
Right. And this is talking about Saul. Saul has not done what the Most High had told him to do, right? Because the Most High prefers that you be obedient not to desire to, yeah, I did this sin and now I want to do a sacrifice. I want to be forgiven for my sin. So I'm going to do a sacrifice. I'm not going to feel bad. I'm going to just, take my sacrifice up. And, today was today. Tomorrow's another day. Leave the past behind, forget about it. What do we look like telling the Most High? Yeah, just forget about what I just did. I'm gonna move on, and you gonna move on because you the Most High. You done seen people do it 1,000 times. You much smarter than that. Like, where do we get the gall to just tell the Most High like you can deal with it? That's a wicked spirit, man. You wanted to bring your precept?
Most certainly. This is Second Chronicles, just to speak to the report of David, right? Because that was, at the first hand or the beginning. Now we're looking at the latter end. This is after David has already walked the earth and he's dead and gone. This is Second Chronicles 34 and 3. Not 3. I'll start at 1. It says Josiah was 8 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned in Jerusalem 31 years. And he did that which was right in the sight of Yahawah, and walked in the ways of David, his father, and declined neither to the right hand nor to the left. And that's what the law actually tells us when you read in I believe Deuteronomy 28. They pull it up real quick. It says to walk or to go neither to the right hand nor to the left. And really what that's going into is that's saying don't go aside from the commandments. Let me pull this out. Much of it isn't that in Deuteronomy 28, I believe.
Believe so.
Yep. It's right here.
14.
This is Deuteronomy 28 and 14. It says, "And thou shalt not go aside from any of the words which I command thee this day, to the right hand nor to or to the left, to go after other gods to serve them." And so that actually shows that when you go aside from the words of the Most High, you're in danger of committing idolatry, right? Because you being faithful to the Most High is keeping his word, doing the things that he says. But once you start to show some of that faithfulness to different things, then you're in danger of walking in idolatry, right? But I'll pass it back to you, brother.
And that's key right there, because this is what it's talking about in Second Ezra, the 7th chapter, when we're speaking about this narrow path, right? And so it's important to stay on the narrow path, because that narrow path leads to this huge city, right? And so this is the keys that the Most High has given us. He's showing us the path of light, right? And it says that this thing would be a lamp unto our feet, a light unto our path. And so when we do these things, we reap a reward. But when we negate these things, we reap, a curse. And this is an oath. And sometimes in the scriptures, people read that, they brought a curse into themselves. That's not what this is saying. They bind themselves to an agreement, to an oath with the Most High. And this is a burden-less yoke. When we keep these commandments, there's no burdens attached to this. But when we break these commandments, that's a heavy yoke on our neck, right? And yeah, let's get that in Acts the 13th chapter, the 22nd verse. Because this man David is, a perfect example of what we have to be like if we fall. We hope not to fall. We hope to, not fall off the path, because there's not an assurity that we will get back up to, get back on that path. Like it says in Second Ezra, the 7th chapter, on one side is deep waters, and on the other side it's a fire. So if you fall in either of the two, you're falling into destruction. So we can't have a desire to fall into sin, and we can't We can't be so lenient that we, get to that point to where we can fall into sin. But you could read that.
Con. This is the book of Acts, chapter 13 and verse 22. And when he had removed him, he raised up unto them David to their king, to be their king, to whom also he gave testimony and said, I have found David the son of Jesse, a man after mine own heart, which shall fulfill all my will.
Right. And so we see that when the Most High chooses someone to be a king, that this ain't just no fly by night. He told this he chose this lineage, right? And you can get Psalms 119:11. But he chose somebody who actually had what it took in order to, carry this lineage, and would show his family throughout time what to do, where he set up the Psalms, and then so much of the Psalms that he had a son who actually had a pure desire for the Most High at his beginning, right? You can read that.
Con, this is the book of Psalm, chapter 119 and verse 11. Thy word have I hid in mine heart, that I might not sin against thee.
Right. And so this is that point, and the Most High knows who's going to choose to do those things, and that's why he knows who he's going to have mercy on. In certain scriptures, it says that the heathen wouldn't repent, right? They'll want to hold fast to you. And that means basically hold you up in bondage and never let you go, because they know all the rewards they can get from having you. But a righteous person, they're going to desire to repent. They're going to desire to get back to the Most High, right? But I think through the Spirit we spoke pretty extensively on that particular topic. But we could continue on in Deuteronomy, unless you had any other points.
Got no other points. What was the chapter in Deuteronomy?
Salak, Exodus.
Okay. So this is Exodus 20, continuing on from 7, right?
6.
So this is Exodus chapter 20 and verse 6. And showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Thou shalt not take the name of Yahawah thy God in vain, for Yahawah will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain.
Right. And can you go to this word for vain? Because a lot of people say, like, this is just, saying the Most High's name for no reason, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's not exactly what this is going into.
It's Strong's H77 or 7,723. It's YAHAWAH, and outline of biblical usage: emptiness, vanity, falsehood, emptiness, nothingness, vanity, emptiness of speech, lying, worthlessness of conduct. And then you want the definition also?
No, that's fine. And so it's important for us to not to lie on the Most High, and not to make, his fame worthless, because the word and go to the word for name as well. Yeah. Sham or Shem.
It's H8034 Sham or shame, and usage is name, reputation, fame, glory, the name as designation of God, memorial, monument.
Right. And so this means, basically to keep the weight on the Most High's name, right? Because we see what happened when those things kind of get taken away. We see that with Joseph, because when the Most High had sent Joseph, through his will, through his brothers, sending them into slavery, but in order to build up a kingdom to eventually free his people from, a slavery that, had to happen. But if they would have kept reciting those things, kept letting people know, yeah, the Most High really worked through through Joseph, showing him dreams, showing him how to understand and interpret these things. And that's why we're here, to the place where when the king was risen up, he's like, yo, who are these people? Why are they even here? They're going to rise up and try to fight against us. But when we make through our lives, the Most High's name means something. That's how we keep ourselves safe, because the Most High will keep us safe. Because, nobody can, come up against the Most High, not even, the spiritual demon, right? Because we even see when Michael and that Shaitan, or the devil in that instance, was fighting over the body of Moses, when it was said, Yahweh rebuke you, he fled, right? And so that shows that weight of the Most High is always there. Get Mark 7:6.
It's the book of Mark, chapter 7 and verse 6. He answered and said unto them, well hath Isaiah prophesied of you hypocrites, as it is written, this people honoreth me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. Howbeit, in vain do they worship me, teaching for doctrines the commandments of men. Continuing on, verse 8. For laying aside the commandment of God, ye hold the tradition of men, as the washing of pots and cups. Many other such like things ye do.
Right. And so even in this, like, by them choosing to do what they want to do, it shows the hypocrisy, and it shows that vanity. And so in order to be doing the will of the Most High, you have to be keeping the law, right? But if you're doing what men are telling you to do, you're becoming like these hypocrites, the scribes and Pharisees, and different folks who chose to rewrite laws and make their own laws. And so they're full well rejecting the commandments of the Most High, right? As the scripture says, that they may keep that ye may keep your own traditions. And so it's important to, keep that weight of the Most High, not to lie on them, not to, not mention them. And so we can go back, unless you had any precepts on that.
I had a quick point. Would you be able to read for me? I got a few verses. So if you can, could you read Romans chapter 2 and just start with verses 17 through 18?
This is Romans chapter 2, verse 17. Behold, thou art called a Jew, and restest in the law, and makest thy boast in Yahawah.
In verse 18.
And knowest his will, and approvest the things that are more excellent, being instructed out of the law.
So this passage, it touches on a few things. First, it shows that the Jews, or the people that walk in the customs of our fathers, of the children of Israel, if you're instructed out of the law, you know the will of the Most High. So that shows that the will of the Most High is contained in the law, right? So, alongside Psalm 40 and 8 and all of these places that we see that the will of the Most High is the law, statutes, and commandments, this is another place, right? But let's continue on. You could read 19. You could read 19 and you just read on down 19 to 22.
Verse 19. And art confident that thou thyself art a guide of the blind, and light of them which are in darkness, an instructor of the foolish, a teacher of babes, which has the form of knowledge and the truth of the law.
In 1 second, let me touch on that real quick.
God.
So it says, an instructor of the foolish, a teacher of the babes, which has the form of knowledge and of the truth of the law. So when you go into the Greek, I believe I went into this a long time ago. When you go into the Greek there, that's dealing with the most suitable version, right? Or what's most fitting. So basically, it's showing that the most fitting iteration of knowledge is within the law of God, right? So that's touching on that. So that's just another side point. But what the Apostle Paul is illustrating is that he's speaking to, certain people that are Israelites. They should know the law. They know all of these things. They're very schooled. But you can continue on because he's going to touch on the issue, right? You can continue on to 21 down to 22.
God, verse 21. Thou therefore which teachest another, teachest thou not thyself, or thyself? Question. Thou that preachest a man should not steal, doest thou steal? Thou that sayeth a man should not commit adultery, doest thou commit adultery? Thou that abhorrest idols, Salat, thou that abhorrest idols, dost thou commit sacrilege?
Con. So the Apostle Paul, he's asking these brothers that that teach, and they understand the law. They instruct other peoples to keep the law. He's saying, like, you people that teach people, not to steal, not to commit adultery, not to abhor or restrict yourself from idols. Do you do these things? Right, because he's touching on a similar thing that YAHAWASHI did in Matthew 23. When he was speaking about hypocrisy, right? So
God.
he's touching on this, but the point is in the points are in verse 23 and 24. You can read those two verses.
Thou that, verse 23, thou that makest boast of the law through breaking the law, dishonorest thou God, or Yahweh? For the name of Yahweh is blasphemed among the Gentiles through you, as it is written.
And he's quoting Isaiah. I can't remember the chapter and verse, but he is quoting Isaiah. He's quoting the prophet, right? But the Apostle Paul, he said that this type of hypocrisy is why the name of the Most High is blasphemed, And so this is very important in going back to, making the Most High's name vain, or bringing vanity to his name or to his reputation or his glory. It's very important in how we conduct ourselves as the chosen people of the Most High, especially us that claim to have the oracles. We claim to be the true Jews, as we say. We have to be walking upright and orderly, because what happens, and this happens a whole lot, but what tends to go on is, we're the ones, that are, propagating, a particular image. We're saying, oh, well, you got to keep the law, statutes, and commandments. We got to do this. And then, something come out that, somebody did something. You know what I'm saying? And this happens a lot less, than, some of our friends that's in the church, right? Because you have, the quote unquote holy rolling pastor. And then it kind of come out that, he was messing around with the deacon's wife, and then it kind of come out in the news. But this, it still applies to us because we have to make sure that we don't, display hypocrisy, because that dishonors the Most High, and it gives reason, and it gives occasion for others to blaspheme the Most High and say, well, that's the God y'all serve, a hypocritical God, that act like you holy, but you really not. You doing stuff in the shadows. These types of things, it make the reputation of the Most High vain. Right, but I'll pass it back to you.
God, and I believe that was quoting Isaiah 52:5. But yeah, we can get back to.
Okay.
If you wanted to read it.
No, that's all. You got it, unless you want me to.
I mean, I guess we can.
I got you.
Because I mean, it was known that these things would happen, and it's been happening, right, since the time of the kings. even before that, in the time of Judges, even in the time of Moses, like different high priests or different priests were, doing certain things that were unruly. But in the time of Moses and in the time of Joshua, the Most High was dealing with them. So it was really up at that point. You couldn't get away with everything, right?
Con.
I believe it's verse 5.
Verse 5. Con. It's the book of Isaiah, chapter 52 and verse 5. Now therefore, what have I here, saith Yahawah, that my people is taken away for naught? That it's like it, they that rule over them make them to howl, saith Yahawah, and my name continually every day is blasphemed.
So through the Spirit, we can see that like it's very important to be a good example of what to do and what not to do, right? And don't be the guy who everybody's figuring out what not to do because you're doing wrong, right? And you sitting there cursed, and everybody else is getting blessed around you because they saying, "Oh man, whatever he do the opposite." Nobody wants to be that guy. You teaching, and I believe that's in is that in Ecclesiasticus or Sirach, where it says there's one that is unprofitable to himself.
Con.
And so, like, you don't want to be that teacher who's teaching everybody the right thing, but you living wicked every day. Like, that's a sad thing to get to that point where you're like, Lord, YAHAWASHI, like, hey, I've done everything. I've taught the people. So many people were led, by me. Nah, depart from me. I never knew you. And now you're in the lake of fire, right? That's a sad thing. But we could get back to Exodus 20.
Con. I think I left off at verse 7.
I think we're at verse 8, yeah.
Con. This is Exodus chapter 20 and verse 8. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work. But the seventh day is the Sabbath of Yahawah thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days Yahawah made heaven and earth, the sea and all that in them is, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore Yahawah blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it.
And we did a lesson on the Sabbath. If you need more understanding on that, please check that video out. The brother Aaron, brought a beautiful lesson on that.
All praise.
So through the Spirit. So we'll continue on.
Verse 12 is the book of Exodus, chapter 20, verse 12.
God.
Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which Yahawah thy God giveth thee.
God. And this is pretty self-explanatory, but get Sirach 3 and 2. Because one of the huge misconceptions is that to honor your mother and father just means to whatever they say, you listen to and do, right? But it's more than that. We have to break down the etymology of honor, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is the opposite of honor? You deal with dishonor, right? And so if you break these next laws that are about to come up, this is how you show that dishonor to your family, right? Because if you have to bring yourself to a situation when you're in court because you did certain things, now you're at that point where you're bringing shame to your family, right? And the Most High gave you these things so you don't bring shame to him, because he's the highest father, right? But he's given us natural parents, right? And as we defame their name or bring their names low, like if they're living right, they're gonna say, "Oh, that righteous man and woman raised this wicked son." And we see examples of that with Eli. We see examples of that with even Samuel. Samuel was a great guy. But when it was time for, his sons to be the next prophets, they was like, "Yo, we can't they can't do that for us." Like, you expect us to rock with these guys? Nah, we need a king. Forget this. But you can read that.
Kind of what verse you wanted?
You can read 1 through 3 or 4.
This is the book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 3, verse 1. Hear me, your father, O children, and do thereafter, that ye may be safe. For the Lord hath given the father honor over the children, and hath confirmed the authority of the mother over the sons. Whoso honoreth his father maketh an atonement for his sins.
Right. You can pause right there. And so this is very important, because when we actually honor our parents and we try to do as much right as we possibly can to not bring shame to them, to, listen to what advice they give us so that we don't fall into like this wickedness. This is our earthly example of our relationship with the Most High. If we are obedient and do what's right and don't bring that shame to our family, then this is the thing that atones for the sins when we do slip up. But it's kind of like a bank. If you don't have no money in the bank, and then, let's say you got a checking and a savings, then you got $3 in your checking account, and let's say you done stored up $500 in your savings. If something comes out of your checking, and let's say it's $40, you got that savings there set up because you stored up those things, right? And so now you have something to cover what's in that checking, right? But let's say you got $0 in your savings and you only got $2 in your checking, and something pops up and $30 come out. Now you got this overdraft fee, and that's going to keep piling up as much as the bank says. And so, like, it's important to honor our mother and father over this time, because this is more showing of grace, right? And so, like, these things are examples, because later on through the scriptures we're going to see where, being called a drunkard and certain things by your parents shows that shame that you brought to them. But yeah, go to verse 4, and we won't harp on this one too long, but in your own time, spend some time with this particular scripture. There's some great points here to read to your children and for yourself as well.
This is verse 4. And he that honoreth his mother is as one that layeth up treasure.
Right. And so that further goes into a similar point. So it's very important to show that honor to your parents, right? And that's how you get this long life. That's how you continue to live life. Because to bring dishonor is to break these next commandments that we're about to read. Because for one, it's a showing that you dishonor your parents, and nextly, that you don't love your brothers or your sisters, right? You gotta love your neighbor, right?
And Salakia, when you even when you look at the word for honor, it's the Hebrew word kabod, and it actually means to honor or to make heavy or weighty. So definitely like the scripture is it is self-explanatory, but a lot of people, they do misunderstand, and they'll kind of look at it as, well, I have to do just literally everything they say, and that's how I honor my father and mother. But it's really just to look at your parents as weighty, right? And that's why YAHAWASHI, he gets on the elders for certain doctrines that they instituted, because it in any way you make your parents less weighty, that is a curse upon you. And so, just as the brother went into, as far as just being able to store up treasure, and the bank analogy and things like that, when you dishonor your parents, you bring a curse upon you. Like the scriptures literally say, cursed is the one that dishonors his parents, for he shall die the death. Roughly paraphrasing, that's in Deuteronomy 27. All right, but yeah. Anything else before I move on?
Not at the moment, but we could bring this one out.
Okay.
We could kind of just read through all of these.
Okay. This is Deuteronomy, Exodus 20 and 13. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor's.
Con. And so these listed here, right? These go into, those two commandments, right? All of these commandments here would go with one of those two commandments YAHAWASHI speaks on. Go to Matthew 19:19.
Okay.
Because I was talking to somebody earlier this week, and we were talking about the commandments, and they kind of just harp on, as long as I keep those two, I'm not going to wind up breaking any of the other. And so what becomes important is, what does it really mean to love the Most High? And so if we look through the commandments and see that he's given us certain things for us to do, and to honor and keep throughout our generations, these are our showings of love, right? And when we love his children, we are showing love to him. But he's given us certain, ordinances and things for us to keep, and that's showing him love. But we also have to show that love, to our brothers and sisters. You can read that.
Come. This is the book of Matthew, chapter 19 and verse 19. Honor thy father and thy mother, and thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself.
Right. And so it's very important, that we love our neighbors as we love ourselves. And that's even why Yahushua says, I guess they don't even know how to love themselves. Let me show them a greater love, that they lay down their life for their friend, right? And so, like, he shows you another example of loving your neighbor as yourself, because, nobody wants to feel death, right? I mean, I guess you do got certain people who, like, they thrive off of feeling pain and things of that nature, right? It's sick, but it's people that do that. But it's actually a real thing to really know what it is to love yourself. And these commandments teach you that, right? But here's the kicker. These commandments didn't stop with these here, right? It wasn't, all right, I commence. And you just have these 10 commandments, and that's it. You do these and you're good. Now let's go back to Exodus 20 and let's see what happened. And let's see why there was a pause here. Let's see why there was a break, so to speak, in the speech.
Come. This is the book of Exodus, chapter 20 and verse 18. And all the people saw the thunderings and the lightnings and the noise of the trumpet and the mountain smoking. And when the people saw it, they removed and stood afar off. And they said unto Moses, Speak thou with us, and we will hear. But let not God speak with us, lest we die.
Right. And so, the people are in full fear. You know kind of how it is when you're a kid, and let's just say you're in your room with the window wide open and you hear thunder, like you get a little shock. It's like yeah, imagine being outside and it's right in front of you, and you're seeing the smoke and you're hearing all these loud sounds, the sound of many trumpets, the sound of many thunders, and you hear the words directly, from the mouth of the Most High, so to speak. Like there's a certain level of fear that's there. So is the Most High just going, you know, is it going to be a breezy time if he's frustrated with you? No, not at this point, because they was letting Moses have it. Is Yahweh only speaking to you, Moses? Like, what's going on, man? Like, we need to hear for ourselves. And so they like, all right, man, I get it. The Most High is good. He actually speaks. You ain't crazy, Moses. But I can't deal with this one. You go talk to him because we gonna die. We ain't good. Obviously, you have a better relationship than us. But you can continue on.
Con. This is verse 20. And Moses said unto the people, fear not, for God is come to prove you, and that his fear may be before your faces, that ye sin not. Con, you want me to continue on?
Yeah, you can continue on.
Con. Verse 21. And the people stood afar off, and Moses drew near unto the thick darkness where God was.
Right. So you see this contrast. Moses is used to this now. Like Moses done been around, that presence for a minute. But this their first real time experiencing this. So they scared. They like, hey, we gonna chill over here. And Moses like, man, just chill, man. It ain't that deep. The Most High is just trying to show you that he's real and that you should actually fear him and do what he say. He got something good for you. But sometimes it's hard to see the good when you scared, right? Because there's a difference between fear and reverence and just being plain old scared because, there's something wicked within you. And we know a lot of our people at this time had some wickedness within their heart. And so that's why that level of fear is there, right? And so you can actually continue on.
Verse 22. And Yahweh said unto Moses, thus thou shalt say unto the children of Israel, ye have seen that I have talked with you from heaven. Ye shall not make with me gods of silver, neither shall ye make unto you gods of gold.
And this is what's hilarious, right? And it's not hilarious, but it's sad because Moses goes back, like he goes close, and essentially they once he goes away for a while, they like, yeah, Moses gotta be dead now. Let's make some gods of gold. Like what's in y'all spirit right now? Like it's wild.
Con.
You can continue on.
Con. This is the book of Exodus, chapter 20, verse 24. And an altar of earth thou shalt make unto me, and shalt sacrifice thereon thy burnt offerings, and thy peace offerings, thy sheep and thine oxen. In all places where I record my name, I will come unto thee, and I will bless thee.
Right. And so we see even here, these are more commandments given within the same time. This isn't a different time, this is still the same instance. But we want to say, yeah, these commandments here, we still keep, but as it pertains to, altars and sacrifices, those things are, kind of like done away with, right? But that can't be so. These things are still being recorded.
Con. And a point that a lot of people touch on is they'll say, oh, well, the 10 Commandments, that came directly from God. Like that's what they'll say. But when you like literally, and you see this throughout, the Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. Verse 22, it literally says, "And Yahawah said unto Moses,
Mm-hmm.
thus thou shalt say unto the children of Israel." So the source is still Yahawah, still the Most High. It's not okay. Well, yeah, the 10 directly came from the Most High, and now the rest, Moses, he's kind of filling in the spaces. Like that's how people, they kind of rationalize the law. Like they'll say, yeah, the moral law is the 10 commandments that literally came from the Most High, and the rest are from Moses. And he was a servant of God, and he kind of just wrote some laws. But as we can see, it's literally from the Most High, and through a mediator, as Galatians the 3rd chapter, it calls Moses the mediator. It goes to the children of Israel. But it's all the same source, from the 10 commandments to the rest of the commandments that we find throughout the rest of the Torah.
God, and it's kind of like at this point, you know how like you kind of might be in a room and your brother's getting yelled at, and you can hear what's going on, but the most your parents not talking directly to you, but you can still hear. You're standing off to the side. You might be standing kind of behind the wall or the door in your room, but you still in the you still in the presence of your parents. So at this point, like they're still standing afar off, but like the Most High is using His mighty voice at this time, so it can still be heard, right?
Come, but you want the rest of that in Exodus?
Con.
This is the book of Exodus, chapter 20 and verse 25. "And if thou wilt make an altar of stone, thou shalt not build it, build it of hewn stone. For if thou lift up thy tool upon it, thou hast polluted it. Neither shalt thou go up by steps unto mine altar, that thy nakedness be not discovered thereon."
Right. So so pretty much this pause, so to speak, in the scripture, isn't a thing of okay, yeah, he just gave this much, and everybody kind of went their way, and then that was the end of it. But it was a thing of the Most High speaking, and they're hearing this thunder and lightning and all of these things, and they get afraid. But the commands weren't done. That fear was already placed inside of them, and so it wasn't a thing of it was these and now it's over. It was these. They were afraid. They stepped back, and there was more given. And so these scriptures are connected, right? Through 21, 22, so on and so forth. And so they're still hearing the thundering and lightning and all of these things. And Moses is, he's in the presence of the Most High. So eventually they're like, yo, Moses got to be dead. Like, ain't no way he survived that. He ain't been down here to eat, nothing. Like, he got to be gone. Like, so, I mean, you got any points?
Yeah, I mean, I believe through the spirit power of the Most High, you kind of showed, or not kind of, but you showed, that you proved the point with this, the 10 Commandments controversy or debacle that a lot of people have. And I was trying to find in Galatians, right, where it says that the Most High, that Moses was a mediator. It's in Galatians 3. I loosely quoted it, but I did want to read it just because I loosely had quoted it. But I think the way that the NLT puts it is really it's really good. I think it was
19, verse 19.
It could be 19. Let me see. Yeah, it might be 19. Yeah, I think it's 19. I'm gonna read it in the NLT. So it says, "Why then was the law given? It was given alongside the promise to show people their sins." Romans 7:7 says that as well. It says, but the law was designed to last only until the coming of the child who was promised. God gave his law through angels to Moses, who was the mediator between God and the people. Right. And so that's showing that Moses, he was the mediator between the Most High and the people. And so, and also, just to kind of touch on this lightly, because a lot of people, they'll bug out and get confused and say, "Oh yeah, the law, it lasted all the way up until Christ." A lot of
God.
yeah, they'll try to say that. But what this is actually touching on and establishing is what you were actually under, because when you touch on Galatians, especially the 3rd chapter, it uses phraseology like "not under the law" and things like that. And so when we deal with the concept of being under the law, it's speaking to what the standard that you're justified by. And so when you, like, again, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, being justified by the law or within the law, it shows you a procedure and steps in how to be justified and be acquitted, and it's like the law and order, so to speak. You do these things, and then now you're not guilty and you're in a state of innocency. But when YAHAWASHI, came to the earth and, he lived out, his ministry and his service to the Most High, what he provided was a means of justification, so that we can be justified for sins past, right? That's in, I believe, Romans, the 3rd chapter. But also you read that in Acts 13, I believe 37 on down, when it says he justified us from things that we couldn't be justified from within the law of Moses. And so when YAHAWASHI came, he provided that. And so when it touches on this, when it says it was designed to last up until when the child was, the promised child was to come, that's what it's referring to. And when you read this chapter of Galatians 3, which I'm not going to go into today, but I will refer a lesson, Lord willing, when I put it in the comments. I touch on this whole point, right? But yeah, that's my only point on this.
And also on that note, this is also the reason why the children of Israel were scattered as well, to be uprooted from the authority of the Levites or the scribes and Pharisees, so to speak. And we get the proof of that from scriptures like Mark 14:27, when the shepherd is smited, the sheep shall scatter, right? Loosely paraphrasing. And so by us being uprooted from that governing of ourselves, we've been redeemed through Mashiach YAHAWASHI. And so we that process being set up for something to come has already begun, but its fulfillment is to happen, in the soon future, as we can see through prophecy.
Come.
But that's pretty much all I have, through the Spirit. I want to end it off by giving all praises, honor, and glory to the Most High, who in the dialect of Hebrew that we speak is YAHAWAH, through the name of his only begotten Son, YAHAWASHI. And I bid everyone Shalom.
Shalom.